Do you do traditional usability testing, observe, hear, then think out loud? Or do you do the surveys? Or how do you gather the feedback? Because I'm thinking like you are a dude, you don't understand what the woman wants, right? With the technology, are you bringing in AI or vibe coding, or what are you bringing in terms of the technology wise to this legacy brand for the emotional experience?
So the whole team is encouraged, basically, if they have friends or anybody, if they know someone who's in the business or who might have an opinion or is in that, so like everybody's encouraged, like just go take off for the afternoon and go hang out with them and show them.
Welcome to UX Stories. I'm your host, Lihong Hicken. I've spent my career obsessed about how we understand what users actually think. When Chris and I helped scale usertesting.com from zero to IPO, I thought that we had it figured out. But AI has changed everything. The speed of building is now 10 times faster than the speed of listening. So Chris and I built Dayset. We want to use vibe testing to match the speed of vibe coding. I'm here to talk to builders who want to deliver great experiences to their customer. My guest today is Mike Ball, head of product at Bridal. Now, I've been looking at Mike's background, and you come from some very interesting experiences from agency, marketing, and of course, from your other podcast, episodes where you're vibe coding, very techy. I can conclude you are a very self-confessed product nerd. Okay.
It's fair.
You are leading the digital strategy for one of the most romantic, emotional, and non-nerdy industry on the planet. So, Mike, I love this contrast. Beyond the product nerd exterior and head of product title, what is the core philosophy that drive how you built for such an emotional customer base?
Yeah, I think so how I got here, I think like is a big part in timing. And even my career path, I think I've been a technologist, very excited about what's possible, right? And so part of my
Yeah.
brain is like, how does this work? What can it do? The other part of my brain is very wired to like, I want to say that is it good enough mindset? Every time I open an app, every time my wife gets frustrated trying to order groceries online, like all these different experiences all the time. We're like, the technology can be better. Like it can give you a better experience. They're just not shipping it. And I naturally gravitated, when I started my career, social media was new and that was the big innovation space. And I ended up starting in marketing just kind of naturally. And I've gone towards building because I kept hitting that wall of like not good enough, like marketing, great leads, qualified, through the door, signed up, dropped off. Why did that happen? Oh, the experience is not good. So then I end up in product. I think the way that I end up at David is partially by relationships built throughout my career. So the president, Alina Vilk, and I worked together at Automatic for some big initiatives with WooCommerce and WordPress.com. We just work well together. She has ambitious visions. I'm an ambitious builder, and we can work kind of async and stay on the same page. And so she brought me in. I definitely didn't have wedding retail on my bingo card, but the ambition of like, David's is this massive brand in the space that's been around for 75 years. 1 out of 3 wedding dresses still in the US come from David's. 98% of brides who are shopping cross paths or at least consider David's at some point in time, right? So it's this huge brand, this huge network across. And she's like, think of it as you have the retail as your channel to grow these other opportunities. And here's the problems, right? Here's the problems that nobody's addressed for these brides. Here's the problems that nobody's addressed for these vendors. Here's the opportunity. And she painted it out. And for me, it's really easy to sympathize with brides. Like, I don't know a lot about weddings. I'm married to a marriage and family therapist, and she actually doesn't like weddings. So we got married. It was very minimal. It was like a breakfast / brunch, no drinks, a little bit of music and some cake. And then we were on our way. We did it in the morning, like very different from what most people do. When it comes to the like, how do I empathize and understand this user? It's really easy. I've been in project management roles. I've handled big complex things, right? For me to say like, they're overwhelmed. Like they have a lot of decisions to make. They're excited about this. They want to enjoy it and they're stressed. They're more stressed than they've probably ever been because the stakes are so high. So when I look at that and I see like, it's crazy to me that these brides are still taking screenshots of their spreadsheets and sharing them because they're so excited about it. And if you've been in any kind of like project, event, whatever, that excitement, like this spreadsheet is going to be so helpful, only lasts so long before it starts breaking and causing more stress. So I was like, this is an easy problem to solve for a group of people where it would be very meaningful to solve it for. And I actually had to take it out of my head of like, there's so many great tools in this tech space that we know how to use and that we're used to. There's so many standards. But like we can take some ideas from that, but we absolutely cannot make it feel to them like it's one of these tools because they're not in the tech space. They're not gonna want to ramp up on all these complicated, Jira ticket codes and project IDs and things like that. So it was like, let's just start with the things that are stressing them out the most and simplify. And so we've just kind of taken that path and building the AI kind of behind the scenes, knowing some of them may want to jump into AI right away and let that assistant help them. Some of them might not discover it for a while, but then be pleasantly surprised when it can actually help them in a meaningful point in time. So we're not forcing the tech, but we're making sure that they have more than one way to like relieve stress, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Well, you just unpack a lot here. So I wanted to dissect, and there's a couple of things I want to dive in and ask here. You do mention that David's Bride is a legacy brand. It's been here for a while, and you are a tech, driven dude, right? So
Yep.
how do you bring your tech driven, product building and digital transformation process to re-energize a legacy brand and making sure you deliver great experiences to your customer with the technology? Are you bringing in AI or vibe coding, or what are you bringing in terms of the technology wise to this legacy brand for the emotional experience?
Yeah. So I'll say first, David's already had a bar for customer experience. Now, not necessarily, it wasn't like carried over or executed as well on the digital side. But if you talk to customers or you talk to stylists in the stores, and nobody cares more about helping that bride find the perfect dress than the stylists that are in there. And they'll bend over backwards. They'll do anything they can to make that happen. And the customers are so happy when it happens. So like I already had this when I came in, the philosophy or like the belief, like that experience is very important was already there. I didn't have to convince anybody. And so when everything goes back to like the experience for the customer, you don't have a lot of friction in your way because the company's already aligned. So that was easy. On the tech side, everybody felt like we were moving slower than we should. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. Pearl is kind of the digital branch, but we had like a clean slate. So we actually moved really fast on that one. And that kind of served as the, say, like the proving point for the rest of the company to see that you can move fast. We'd like sketched, designed, planned out, built, launched, and maybe it was ready in 6 months from when I started. Even just I got hired, started planning it. We shipped it and we were basically doing production tests less than 6 months later. So the rest
Yeah.
of the company saw that and was like, okay, so how do we do that? How do we bring that to the rest of the teams? And that's what we're kind of working on this year too. So my main role is like digital product. What are we building? What are these experiences? How they connect? Fundamentals like, do we have requirements, everything? Do we really think things through organizationally? Because they're not used to thinking about all the touch points, all the interactions, complexity and stuff in the same way. And then the other part of it is like, how do we empower our team to like take what they know? Because they know a lot from being in this business for so long. Like when I was playing the ideas of how to do some of this, I don't know anything about dress styles or wedding styles or like I don't know how you would know a like modern romantic dress from like a classic something dress, right? So like I had to really pull a lot of information and there's a lot of experts in house. So we pull that out and I just knew what to do with it, right? Like I knew how to say like, oh, if the image identifies these attributes in the dress, that means the user is looking for this kind of dress or this kind of wedding style or whatever. That's the easy part, but like the legacy knowledge is like deep expertise. I couldn't have done any of it without them. So it was really just merging the two things. And then as we're working now, how do we give them the tools or the use cases to run faster? Even little things like everybody spent a certain amount of time updating a presentation that we review every week based on where projects are at. I'm like, well, if it's in Confluence or Jira or even in Slack or even in a doc somewhere where regardless where you're tracking it, like, do we really need people to stop what they're doing and go put bullet points, or can we draft it and just have them thumbs up later? And that took me a couple of days, right? So it's like little wins like that we work towards speeding up and then teaching the people who are most interested how to leverage it to improve their kind of like, I don't want to say output, but like their confidence and velocity and being able to get stuff done. And so I'm not forcing it on everybody all at once, but especially for the people who are interested, I'm trying to like give them the right tools and the right support so we have more, say, role models or leaders that can help others pick it up.
I see. So, David Bridal, by bringing you, they've solved speed problem. And you also mentioned that, wedding planning is very famously stressful. And we all know that stress usually reveals the crack in a digital product experiences. So what I try to understand is like, how do you guys make sure the experience you deliver, like the planning, the prototype, how do you gather feedback along the way to make sure that the experience you're about to deliver, even though it's quick, it's fast, make sure that they will deliver great experiences to your customers? I mean, how do you gather feedback? Do you do traditional usability testing, observe, hear, then think out loud? Or do you do the surveys? Or how do you gather the feedback? Because I'm thinking like you're a dude, you don't understand what the woman wants, right? So
Yeah.
sorry, I just put it blank there.
No, it's true. I mean, like if we hop on there, I think what it comes down to, like, and this is probably true if you were to ask my wife, I'm not as good at it as at outside of work as I am at work, but really, like if you give a woman the opportunity to be listened to, share their ideas, right? They tend to open up pretty quickly, regardless of who's on the other side. And I tend to bring in like our lead engineer. She's a girl. She's like not quite engaged yet, I think, but in that age range, right, where she can resonate with some of them. Our main project manager who helps me keep things on track, like also. So we have like a mix of people who show up and kind of listen and ask questions and engage. It's I'm not a traditional methodology kind of person. So like we've done structured like reaction calls and recordings and tests and things like that. And generally almost always when I get on a call, I go off script because they say something interesting and I want to like explore deeper, or they maybe hint at something that they didn't elaborate on, but I know in the back of my head that it's really important. Like something like, oh yeah, well, I just do this and then I do like 3 other things and then we're good. I'm like, what are those 3 other things, right? Like, why do you have to do 3 other things if you already did this? And then I can kind of unpack it and get their reactions and thoughts. And then once it's live, it's really following up on that and following through. And you're like, honestly asking like, what don't you like? Some people really like try to validate, what's going well, what are you using? Like you can find that in the data, really finding out why did you stop using it, or why are you backing away from using it, or what has kept you from using these things that we have here for you, right? Like what didn't you like about the experience? That's really what I care about. And I tend to find that if they know you care about that, they're more likely to share it because they feel like you're going to do something about it.
Sounds good. So it sounds like you are doing in-person usability testing, like moderated, meaning like you sit in the room with the users, you interview them. Do you observe them using your product and see why they are not using it? It or is just the talking without
It's
watching,
both.
observing?
If I can get
It's
them,
it's,
so
it's
there's different stages, right? Like in design early on, we'll demo or we'll show and we'll like
mm,
compare. If it's actually something about an existing user and how they're using a feature, like we'll have them pull up their account. If we're working on something new and it's staging, we'll pull up and demo it. It just kind of depends on what the conversation's about. We just make sure we're having those on an ongoing basis.
do
Kind of
you bring
prioritize like what questions do we really want to answer right now, right? And we just run it as a
yeah.
constant system.
Totally. How do you do it? Do you do it through the digital method of the Zoom calls, or I have another guest who have a torture room where it's like a bring people in and then people see a two-way glass and have their team suffer and watch people
Yeah,
use their
we
partner.
don't
Yeah.
do that, but the whole team is encouraged basically if they have friends or anybody, if they know someone who's in the business or who might have an opinion or is in that. So like everybody's encouraged, like just go take off for the afternoon and go hang out with them and show them, get their feedback,
Oh, I see.
see
So
what they
it's
think.
it's like a informal program. You guys don't have any at scale like a formal program where like every prototype need to get 30 participants, go through this, every
No,
product need to you don't why don't you not do that?
I don't really think it's necessary for how, so like a lot of those systems are built on a couple things, right? They're built on development is expensive, right? So you don't want to
Right.
have the team build the wrong thing, which is not true anymore. Like we've shipped multiple iterations, versions, things like we ship more in a sprint than I can even keep up with from a testing standpoint. To be honest
Right,
with you, like
right,
to
right.
get through Figma, to get through a sprint, like to really test end to end, I have to carve out a
Right.
lot of time. Like we move pretty quick. So there's always ways to validate afterwards. The other part of it is like for each thing that we're doing, we probably already validated it at some point in time initially through just problems that we've discussed or other routes. And then from a design standpoint, it's a mix of like, if everybody's currently, and not everybody, but say like the people we talk to use the spreadsheet and they've never seen a planning tool, depending on the segment, right? The way we approach for the consumer version might be a little bit different in terms of testing and collecting data than if we were to roll this out, say like if we were trying to go to market for a different industry or whatever and reshell it as like some kind of planning software for like software teams, I'd absolutely take a different approach to systematically like, do you have what you need? But in this case, it's like a very human, very like step increments of improvement from what they're used to doing on their own, especially the ones who don't have like a professional planner helping them.
Okay.
So we do validate and go through end to end, but also we have an 18-month average life cycle from when they sign up and they start planning, or at least when they get engaged, to when their actual wedding happens. And that's such a long feedback loop. You kind of have to iterate across and kind of think of it in cohorts instead.
I don't get it. So if you don't have the feedback and building a tool, how do you know what you built is going to deliver good experiences? Just because you're building something better than a spreadsheet, how do you know you're building? So what I'm saying is like what usability testing exists in the period of time, let's say you're about to release some important features to help your brides make their life better. Okay, sure, it might be better than the spreadsheet, but how do you know you're doing something better? You only have guesses. Your guess is definitely going to be better than spreadsheet. Maybe you're guessing. You don't know.
Oh, no. So if we're shipping major features, let's say, and we tend not to do, there are big features that we work on that we do bigger releases on,
Yeah.
but we don't ship like huge changes that are going to change the experience like that. Usually it's incremental improvements. Like we already knew what we designed was going to get to this point. And maybe we even showed users the endpoint of where we wanted to go to the feature. And we knew we were shipping incrementally to get there based on timeline or resources or whatever.
But those incremental improvements are not getting tested because what I'm seeing here in the vibe testing code is like before you will test it and make sure you're not building the right thing because you need to protect engineering time. But because the vibe coding world, the engineering time doesn't need to be protected. But what I'm saying here is the customer experiences still need to be protected. Sure, you could use product usage to see like what you incremental changes, what product usage is doing. But how many bad experiences do you have to deliver in order to show in the product usage to give you enough data to say, oh, that feature we built, no one uses them. Is it because people don't know about it? Is it because it's too difficult to, you don't know. So I'm just saying like,
Right.
why?
I get what you're
But
saying.
that's a problem with vibe coding is like, because people don't need to worry about protecting engineering resources, they're shipping things without testing. And then that in turn deliver some unknown experiences, which sometimes can cause bad experiences to the customers.
Yeah, I would say we don't surface anything. A lot of the times we may even, and because we're small and early, we don't have like a formal beta program where everybody gets an email about a new feature and only those beta users see it. But we will ship features under flags or hide them and then actually expose, right? Like test it in prod, expose to a smaller group that we've worked with, get feedback and make sure we're seeing the right signals before we announce that it's even there. So it's more about scrappiness in our case of like, if I had the resources to run a true program for every design iteration or every feature that was in queue, I probably would. But we are like a retail company first versus a tech. And I don't know,
Yes.
I say I probably would, but I think philosophically, there is what is going to impact what is already working and what they're already using. In which case, like, yes, we should really think about this before we put it out or how we introduce it and the experience that is going to, like, what it will change in terms of experience. And then there's from a like new experience standpoint, I think I'd rather get feedback and we do our pre-vetting, right? Like we do our design, we do our walkthroughs ahead of time and everything like that. And then to scale it, we do need to get it in front of real users too. So we
That's
kind of
right.
roll it out that way before we announce or before we make a big deal out of it. But there's two different things. There's like small incremental changes that we pulled and validated through incremental feedback, right? Not just, and I'm, as much as I love data and you call me a nerd, I would never just look at a report and say, oh, this means we have to do this. That's like not human enough from a product standpoint, right? Like you could justify in your head. And I know a lot of product people who would jump to conclusions and do that. But like the human feedback, raw, like I don't say unsolicited, but especially when you're not prodding for it, like not going into it saying, I need to see if they would like this feature, they wouldn't like this feature, if they like this designs, they don't, but like what has come up organically through the conversations we're having, like a listening machine, right? Like an ongoing listening machine to keep your pulse and kind of inform what your priorities are and how you roll them out. I think like the how you roll them out is very important too.
Totally. I think if you would have the resources and the time to test it, quickly push the button, say, hey, tell me show it to 10 of my customers. What do they react to this incremental results? 10 minutes later or an hour later, they can give me feedback or give me a score. I'm sure you would do it. But right now, I think what's going on is the speed of coding is so fast. One afternoon, you can build all this. Right now, the testing, the way you get feedback is still stuck in the Stone Age. You still have to take an afternoon off, talk to friends and family, schedule Zoom calls, show people that is so Stone Age. 13 years ago when we do user testing, we no longer do this.
Yep.
I can tell you, for example, Facebook acquired a company called Instagram. They were acquired for $1 billion, and they were only 11 employees. How did they become so viral so quickly? That's because I was actually early tester for that project. They started with some freaking ugly wireframes, chick scratches. They tested first thing in the morning, 10 a.m. They launch it, and then they will work on the prototype, improve it. There's no product yet, just sketches, prototypes, mock-up. I know they went to lunch, then they come back 2 p.m. They launch a newer, better version, and they do it every single day. They do 2 runs of usability testing, getting people 10 people per round. So 20 people giving them feedback, and they improve 2 incremental change. Those changes are tiny. It's not that big.
Yeah.
And then they just do it religiously for a couple months. And when their product officially roll out, it was huge viral and they take off. And even when they take off, they still doesn't stop, incrementally improve. And, I'm just saying, it doesn't mean because the changes are small, you just shoot it out. It still needs to be tested, still needs to be disciplined in delivering great experiences, especially when it's such a big, important milestone in their life. Everything is emotional.
Right.
When people are so stressed out, a tiny itty bitty thing will tip them off. It's
yeah, absolutely. And that I
yeah.
would say a good 25 to 50% of the work in any given sprint or at any given time is informed by even casual feedback, right? Like, oh, I was a little confused by this that somebody shared with us, or maybe even if we're going through the logs and the chats with the assistant or something, they're like, wait, can you do this or can you not do this? If we can detect oh, it's not clear, we're not making it easy enough or obvious enough, those are little incremental step changes that we'll push out. And we do sometimes just take their word for it. Sometimes it doesn't have to be, 8 out of 10 users. Sometimes if I see 3 transcripts or I see feedback submitted and there's a trend, we can take a stab at it. And then we can try to get some of those users that gave the feedback on a call to say hey, do you feel like this is better? But I think
sometimes you can't take their word for it. So I oftentimes watch the video. They were like, "Oh, this is very easy. I will use it." It was like, "I'm watching you. You're not using it.
Yeah, you have no idea.
You have no idea. You did it wrong." So it's you really your whole business is understanding the intent. You have to watch and observe and understand what they are thinking. And without that, you can't deliver great experiences.
You said something interesting there too, which is I always laugh when I hear this from product teams of they didn't do it right or they didn't use it the right way or whatever. And that's, especially if it carries over to multiple users, that's a you problem, not a them problem. You're solving for them. They have a way in their head. They're trying to solve this. Every now and then, a paradigm shift comes and oh, they didn't even fathom that it could be this easy, right? You have to get your head wrapped around the circle navigation on an iPod or whatever it was, right? But most of the time, if they're doing it wrong, you actually weren't paying close enough attention, because the thing that makes sense to them is the right trigger, is the right starting point, is the thing that they're going to look for. And that's usually where you route your direction that you go in, right? Okay, they're going to go here. They're thinking it should be here. And we're seeing that persist. Then why did we put it all the way over there?
Exactly. I'll give you an example. Some people say, "Hey, what is the value of this?" It's oh, 5 out of 5, I love this. But how often do I use this? Maybe I never use this. So the value of this is the user experience. The use is 0 because I never use it. I love it. I bought it. So I think as a product builder who want to deliver great experience, you have to observe and watch them use your product and thinking, what's the use? I think that's the true value. Mike, I want to ask 2 power questions and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
So what's your current usability testing tech stack look like today?
I mean, it's honestly a combination of manual testing that we set up via actual meets, like we said before, session recordings that we have via tools like Full Story or Clarity, right, where we can go back and see
section replay.
Yeah, and then feature flag sessions are essentially cohorting out from there, so we can see which versions are being seen. Outside of that, it's collecting real time and ongoing feedback via product, via like if they're using the assistant there, or we just have, which is low engagement, right? Like it's, you never get as much as you want, but there's feedback in the product where you can submit if you're happy about it, if you're upset about it or whatever. So it's a rotation of like data, anecdotal async feedback, real-time testing, and then it's kind of cycles based on the roadmap, which phase we're on, right? So we're always like working on current, we're always working on design for the next. And so it's depending on the stage, right? Like we've spun up prototypes in Figma and done it that way. We've spun up little apps as prototypes and done it that way. But usually I think like right now, because we're so early on the digital side with some of these, and because we're pretty lean, we're not running something systematically to automate it, right? Like we're actually going and setting up these things and being pretty intentional about how we plan them and schedule them, which is like
Thank
a big time suck, honestly.
It is big sense. Hey, Mike, I really appreciate your honesty. So what is one thing that could make gathering human feedback from from your users dramatically easy for you if you have a magical wand? Anything, any wish.
The biggest problem is always like willingness to participate. And I think, and not skewing it towards the people who are overly positive at any point in time, right? So like if you had something that would magically convince people who had a bad experience to share it, right? And in detail, or even break it down, that's what I would care about most. Like I don't need ego validation. I really need to know where the pain points are hiding. And that's, if I had a magic wand, it would be that like every frustrated thought was put down on a piece of paper, a video or screen or whatever in front of me so I could see it.
Like your own customers frustrated
Yeah,
your own
my
customers?
own users.
Oh, okay. That's not difficult wish. All right, Mike. Thank you for showing how you balance your tech and your love in the product world. For those who are listening, if you're ready to start vibe testing at the speed you code, visit us at theysaid.io. I'm Lihong Hicken, and this is UX Stories. Thank you.